The research station hung in the black void like a silver needle, slowly spinning around the angry planet below. VII was not a beautiful world. Its surface churned with storms that never ended, clouds the color of rust and poison swirling in patterns that hypnotized anyone foolish enough to stare too long. Aura stood at the observation window, her four eyes reflecting the orange glow of the planet. She had been studying this world for 12 years, and still it found ways to surprise her. The scientist touched the glass with one of her 6 delicate fingers, feeling the cold seep through. "Another tempest is forming," she said to no one in particular. Her voice clicked and hummed the way all spoke. Behind her checked the sensor displays. The station commander was older than Aura, his carapace darker and marked with the scars of a long career. "Category 9, he confirmed. "It will reach full strength in 6 hours, the largest we have seen this season." Aura turned away from the window. "We should get excellent data from this one." The research station was small, home to only 15 scientists. They came here to study the impossible storms of VII, to understand whether that could tear apart mountains and boil oceans. No living thing could survive on that surface. They had proven that fact dozens of times, sending probes and testing equipment that always broke within hours. The storm season was their busiest time. That's when the tempests grew large enough to see from space, large enough to swallow entire continents. Aura was preparing her instruments when the alarm sounded. The noise made her mandibles click in surprise. Claws moved quickly across his console. "Emergency beacon," he said. "Close range." "From the planet?" Aura asked, confused. "No, from space, a ship." Eyes widened. "It's in distress. Engine failure. It's falling." Aura rushed to his side. On the screen, she saw the signature of a cargo vessel. Small, the kind used for transporting goods between systems, and it was falling toward VII. "Can we help?" she asked. Was already calculating. "No, they're too far, moving too fast. Their engines are completely dead." He paused, watching the numbers. "Their emergency systems are trying to land them." Land, Aura felt cold. On VII during Tempest season. "The ship's computer must think it's better than dying in space," said quietly. They watched in silence as the ship fell. Its automated systems fired small thrusters, trying to slow down, trying to aim for a flat area. The ship was heading straight for the region where the Category 9 Tempest was forming. "What kind of ship is that?" Aura asked. Pulled up the identification data. "Human vessel, registered to the Earth Transport Authority, cargo designation." He looked at her. "One crew member showing on manifest." One, Aura had heard of humans. They were a young species new to space travel. They had met them only 50 years ago. They seemed friendly enough if strange. "Just one human is flying that ship." "Two are registered, but life signs show only one is aboard," confirmed. They watched the ship enter the atmosphere. It started to glow, friction heating its hull. The human pilot was fighting the descent, using every trick to control the fall. Whoever was flying knew what they were doing. "He's good," admitted, "for a human." The ship disappeared into the cloud layer. They lost visual but kept tracking on sensors. The cargo vessel was still descending, still under some control. Then it vanished from their screens for 3 long seconds. When the signal returned, it was stationary, on the surface. "Incredible," Aura whispered. "He landed it." "Barely," said, studying the data. "The ship took heavy damage, hull breaches in multiple sections, but the cockpit and one cargo bay seem intact." "Life signs?" "Checked, yes, one human alive." Aura felt something strange. Relief, perhaps. She had just watched someone fall from the sky and somehow survive. "Can we rescue him?" His mandibles clicked in the equivalent of a sad laugh. "Look at the location." Aura looked at the coordinates. Her heart sank. The human had landed directly in the path of the forming tempest. The storm would reach his location in less than 5 hours. We have to try, she said. Send a rescue ship. The Tempest will destroy anything we send, replied. You know this. Our ships cannot survive those winds, nothing can. Then after the Tempest passes, Aura's voice was gentle. The Tempest will last 4 days, maybe 5. Nothing survives that long on VII. She wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. They had the data. They had tested it. The storms on this planet generated winds over 800 kilometers per hour. Temperatures swung from negative 150 degrees to positive 200 degrees within minutes. The air pressure changed so rapidly that it crushed metal. What about the ship? She asked. Can it protect him? A cargo vessel shook his head. It's designed for space, not for this. The first serious wind will tear it apart. Aura looked at the sensor reading showing the human's life sign. One small blip on the screen. One person, alone on the worst planet in this sector, with the worst storm in years bearing down on him. Calculate his survival probability, she said. Worked in silence for a moment. 0.003%, he finally said. And that's generous. I'm accounting for the possibility of miracle. We should contact him, Aura said. At least he shouldn't die alone. Nodded, he opened a communication channel to the crashed ship. Static filled the speakers, then cleared. This is Research Station 12 to human vessel, said in standard Galactic. Do you receive? More static than a voice. Male, tired but steady. This is Cargo Pilot Ho, I receive you. Thanks for calling. Nice to know someone's out there. His voice sounded almost cheerful. Aura was confused. Didn't he understand? Pilot Ho continued. We have analyzed your situation. A major storm is approaching your location. We cannot reach you in time. Silence, then Ho spoke again. Yeah, I can see it. Big clouds rolling in. My sensors say it's a bad one. Very bad, confirmed. We must inform you that survival probability is extremely low. Another pause. Well, Ho said, that's unfortunate, but I've had a good run. Can you do me a favor? If we can, Aura said, speaking for the first time. There's another pilot, Park Hae-won. She flies the Earth-Luna route. If I don't make it, tell her Ho said she was right about everything. She'll understand. Aura felt her chest tighten. We will tell her. Thanks, Ho said. I'm going to see what I can do here. Maybe I'll get lucky. The communication ended. Aura stared at the screen. The human's life sign still blinked, steady and strong. Around it, the sensor data showed the tempest growing, the winds increasing, the storm preparing to unleash its fury. He sounds calm, she said. He's probably in shock, replied, when he realizes what's coming. But Aura wasn't sure. There had been something in the human's voice. Not fear, not panic, something else. Determination, maybe. The station's sensors tracked the tempest as it grew larger. Aura and watched. Other crew members gathered to watch. Word spread through the station quickly. A human was about to face a Category 9 tempest. Everyone knew how this would end, but somehow they all stayed to watch anyway. The tempest hit like a hammer. Aura watched the sensor reading spike as the storm reached Ho's position. Wind speed jumped from 50 kilometers per hour to 300 in just minutes. The temperature dropped so fast that the graph looked like a cliff. Life signs, she asked, leaning closer to the display. Checked, still there, still strong. His ship. Taking damage, the outer hull is being stripped away. The image. Even through the thick clouds and interference, they could see pieces of the cargo vessel breaking off, carried away by the wind. Dr. Al entered the observation room. Though was younger than Aura, his carapace still bright green. He carried a data pad filled with information. I've been researching humans, he said. Their biology is strange. Strange how? Aura asked, not taking her eyes from the screen. They have only one heart, for example. Their bones are filled with a mineral compound, calcium, makes them dense but brittle. They need oxygen constantly or they die in minutes. Al scrolled through his notes. They evolved on a world with comfortable temperatures. Their bodies function best between 15 and 25 degrees. And right now, said, Ho is experiencing negative 90 degrees. Impossible, Al said. His blood should freeze, his tissues should crystallize. But the life sign kept blinking. 1 hour passed. The storm grew worse. Wind speeds hit 500 kilometers per hour. The cargo ship was being torn apart piece by piece. They watched as whole sections disappeared, ripped away into the screaming wind. The cockpit is gone, reported. The front half of the ship no longer exists. But he's alive, Aura said, pointing at the screen. How? He must have moved, Al suggested. Maybe deeper into the ship, the cargo bay perhaps. They tried to get visual, but the storm was too thick. All they had were sensors and occasional radio signals. Static mostly, but sometimes they heard sounds. Metal grinding, wind howling, and once, very faintly, a human voice singing something. Is he singing? Asked, confused. Some species use sound to comfort themselves during stress, Al explained. It's a psychological coping mechanism. 2 hours. Temperature swung up to 180 degrees. The metal of the ship had to be glowing hot. They watched the thermal readings climb. Nothing organic survives that heat, Al said. I don't understand. Maybe the sensors are wrong, another crew member suggested. But checked and rechecked. Sensors are accurate, he's there, he's alive. 3 hours into the Tempest, they received a transmission. Brief, broken, but clear enough. Still here, Ho's voice said through the static. Ship's pretty much gone. I'm in the cargo bay. Use the emergency heat shields and pressure seals. It's not comfortable, but I'm managing. Aura felt her mandibles click in surprise. He was managing, in the middle of a Category 9 Tempest. The G-forces alone should kill him, Al said, checking calculations. The pressure changes, the acceleration from the wind. His organs should have ruptured. Human organs are different than ours, another scientist said. Not that different, Al insisted. 4 hours. The cargo bay Ho was hiding in registered wind speeds of 600 kilometers per hour. The structure was flexing, bending, but somehow still holding. Barely. The cargo bay wasn't designed for this, said. It's going to collapse. They watched, waited. The minutes felt like hours. 5 hours, 6 hours, the cargo bay held. Incredible, Aura whispered. More transmissions came through, sporadic and short. They heard Ho talking to himself, his voice tired but steady. He spoke about Haywan, the pilot he'd mentioned before, memories of flying together, jokes they'd shared, arguments they'd had. She told me I took too many risks, Ho said during one transmission. Said one day my luck would run out. Guess she was right, but I'm not gone yet, still fighting. Aura found herself rooting for him. It was illogical. The mathematics were clear. He couldn't survive. But something about his voice, his determination, made her want him to prove the mathematics wrong. 8 hours into the Tempest, they detected movement. Wait, said, staring at his screen. His position changed. Changed how? Aura asked. He moved, 30 meters north of his previous location. That's impossible, Al said. The wind would carry him away. But the life sign was clearly in a new position. They watched it, trying to understand. Then it moved again, another 20 meters. He's going outside, Aura realized. During the storm, he's moving outside the cargo bay. Suicide, said flatly. They tried to contact him but got only static. For 10 minutes, they watched the life sign move slowly across the planet's surface. Then it stopped, stayed still for 5 minutes, and moved back to the cargo bay location. When communication cleared, they heard Ho breathing hard. Found. A power cell, he gasped. Needed it for the heat system. The bay was getting cold. You went out in the storm, Aura said into the microphone, to get a power cell. Didn't have much choice, Ho replied. I could stay inside and freeze or go get what I needed. The wind was intense, but there was a lull, maybe 20 seconds. I took it. 20 seconds, repeated. He went out, found a power cell, and came back in 20 seconds. Human reaction time is fast, Al said, checking his data. But this is exceptional. 10 hours. The Tempest was still building. It hadn't even reached full strength yet. The worst was still coming, and the human was already doing impossible things. Aura began recording everything, every sensor reading, every transmission, every data point. This was scientifically important. They were watching something that shouldn't be happening. 12 hours in, Ho's vital signs started showing problems. Heart rate elevated, blood pressure irregular, oxygen levels dropping. He's dying, Al said. But then the reading stabilized, not back to normal but steady. Ho was adapting. I don't understand human biology, Al admitted. They're supposed to be fragile, weak. They live on a gentle planet with easy conditions. Maybe we were wrong, Aura said. 15 hours, 20 hours. The Tempest reached its full power. The numbers on the screen were terrifying. 820 kilometers per hour. Pressure swings that would crush it instantly. Temperature variations that could boil water and freeze it again within minutes. The cargo bay was a twisted wreck now. They could see that much through brief breaks in the clouds. It looked like crumpled paper, but somewhere in that wreck, Ho was still alive. 24 hours, one full day. Statistically impossible, said. He'd given up updating the survival probability. The numbers had been wrong from the start. Another transmission came through. Ho's voice was rougher now, tired but still there. Day 1 down, he said. Not sure how many more to go. The ship's hull is mostly gone. I've made a kind of cave using cargo containers and debris. It's cramped, but the metal blocks some of the wind. I've got water melting ice from the ship's coolant system. Tastes terrible, but it's wet. He paused. They heard wind screaming in the background. I broke some ribs, I think, Ho continued. Left side hurts when I breathe and my hands have frostbite. Can't feel my fingers anymore, but I'm still here, still breathing. That's got to count for something. Aura looked at. The commander's 4 eyes were wide. He broke his ribs, Aura said. His bones fractured. He has tissue damage from cold, and he's still functioning. Humans are either the toughest species in the galaxy, Al said slowly, or the most stubborn, possibly both. 28 hours, 30 hours, the life sign kept blinking, steady, stubborn. Word spread beyond their small station. Other research stations in nearby systems picked up the story. A human was surviving a VII Tempest. Scientists from a dozen different species started watching the feeds, following the updates. He's become famous, said, reading messages from other stations. Everyone wants to know if he'll make it. Aura looked at the planet below, at the orange and red storms swirling endlessly. Somewhere down there, in the worst conditions imaginable, one human was refusing to die. He'll make it, she said, surprising herself. I don't know how, but he will. The Tempest showed no signs of stopping. If anything, it was getting stronger. 47 hours had passed since the Tempest began. Aura had not slept. She stood at her station, watching the displays, drinking bitter tea to stay alert. Around her, the research station had become a command center. Every screen showed data from the planet below. Every scientist had abandoned their normal work to watch the impossible human. All mathematical models predicted death by hour 12, Dr. Al said for the 5th time that day. He kept recalculating, hoping to find where his formulas had gone wrong. 12 hours maximum. He's past 47. Maybe your mathematics are broken, said. The young pilot had been watching the feeds non-stop, fascinated by what he was seeing. Mathematics don't break, Al replied, but he sounded less certain than before. The latest sensor sweep showed something new. Ho had moved again, Not just a few meters this time. His position had changed significantly. "He's relocated," announced. 30 meters east, behind a rock formation we hadn't detected before. 30 meters, Aura said. "In this storm, how?" They reviewed the sensor logs. Over the past 6 hours, during 3 separate lulls in the wind, Ho had made short trips outside his shelter. Each time he'd carried equipment, pieces of the ship, cargo containers, building materials. "He's not just surviving," said with something like awe in his voice. "He's improving his situation. He's adapting." A new transmission came through. Ho's voice was hoarse, strained, but still coherent. "If anyone's listening, I've set up a better shelter. Found a cliff face that blocks the western wind. Moved some cargo containers to make walls. It's not pretty, but it's stronger than before." Aura pressed the communication button. "Ho, this is the research station. We're listening. We're all listening." A pause. "All, how many is all?" 15 stations across 6 systems," Aura admitted. "You've become popular." A sound came through. It took Aura a moment to recognize it. Laughter. The human was laughing. "Great," Ho said. "I'm famous for almost dying. One would find this hilarious." His voice softened. Has anyone contacted her?" "We sent a message to Earth," Aura said. "She knows you're alive. She's waiting." "Good, that's good." More wind sounds. "I should save power. Batteries running low. Talk later." The transmission ended. Aura looked at the life sign on her screen. The readings were concerning. Ho's body temperature was too low. His heart rate was irregular. His oxygen levels were below safe limits. "He's dying slowly," Al said quietly. "He's been dying slowly for 2 days," pointed out, "but he's still here." 50 hours. The observation room received new equipment. A delegation of scientists from 3 other species had arrived at the station, wanting to study the human firsthand. They crowded around the displays, arguing in multiple languages about biology and physics and probability. "Humans have dense bones," a scientist was saying. "Calcium-based structure, strong but heavy." "That makes them worse for this environment," argued. "More mass means more stress on the body." "Unless," Aura interrupted, "the density protects them. Maybe heavy bones don't break as easily under pressure." Everyone turned to look at her. She continued, thinking out loud. "We've been assuming human fragility because they come from an easy world, but maybe that's wrong. Maybe they evolved toughness we don't see." Dr. Al was nodding. "There has severe weather, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, not like VII but worse than most civilized worlds." "They're a disaster species," they said slowly, "born in chaos." "And thriving in it," added. At hour 52, they received video feed. Ho had managed to repair a helmet camera. The image was grainy, damaged by the harsh conditions, but it was enough. For the first time, they could see what he was seeing. The interior of his shelter appeared on the main screen. It was cramped, dark, cobbled together from twisted metal and cargo containers. Ice covered one wall. The other wall glowed with heat. The temperature difference was visible even through the poor video quality. Then Ho moved and they saw his hands. Swollen, dark with frostbite, the fingers were bent at wrong angles. "His hands are destroyed," Al said, horrified. But those destroyed hands were working. Ho was using a plasma torch, carefully melting ice into a container. Water. He was making water to drink. "How is he holding that torch?" the scientist asked. "Those fingers are broken." They watched in silence as Ho worked. His movements were slow, deliberate, careful. He was clearly in pain. They could see him wince with each motion, but he didn't stop. "This is not shock," Aura said. "This is will, pure will." The video feed cut out, then returned. Now they saw Ho's face, partially covered by the helmet. His skin was damaged, burns on one side, frostbite on the other. His lips were cracked and bleeding. One eye was swollen shut. But the other eye was alert, focused. "Hello out there," Ho said to the camera. "I know you're watching, thought I'd give you a show." He tried to smile, it looked painful. "This is what humans call stubbornness. We're good at it." He turned the camera to show his shelter. "I've got food for 3 more days, got the water situation figured out. The cold is bad and the heat is worse, but I'm managing. Biggest problem is the air pressure. Changes so fast it makes my ears bleed. But I found some emergency seals from the ship. Helps a little." The camera swung back to his face. "I'm not going to die here," he said simply. "I've got someone waiting for me. I made promises. Humans keep promises." Hour 58, Ho went outside again. They watched through his helmet camera as he pushed through his shelter's makeshift door. The wind hit him immediately, so strong it pushed him sideways. But he grabbed onto a cable he'd rigged earlier and pulled himself forward. "What is he doing?" asked. "There," Aura pointed. "That piece of hull, he's going for it." The piece of metal was 30 meters away. It was large, intact, probably filled with useful equipment. But between Ho and that hull piece was open ground, completely exposed to the storm. "He'll die," Al said. They watched Ho move. He didn't walk, the wind was too strong. He crawled, using his damaged hands to grip rocks and ice, pulling himself forward meter by meter. The wind battered him. Debris flew past, any piece could have killed him. The temperature was negative 130 degrees. It took him 20 minutes to reach the hull piece. 20 minutes of brutal punishment. They saw him check the interior, find what he was looking for, a power cell, intact and charged, and begin the crawl back. Halfway back he fell. The wind caught him, lifted him, threw him 3 meters through the air. He hit the ground hard. The camera went black for 3 seconds. When it came back online, Ho was lying on his side, not moving. "No," Aura whispered. Everyone in the observation room was silent, staring at the screen. The life sign monitor still showed activity, but faint. Then Ho moved. Slowly, painfully, he got to his hands and knees. He'd held onto the power cell through the fall. They could see it clutched against his chest. He started crawling again. 15 minutes later, he was back in his shelter, the power cell secured. He collapsed on the floor, breathing hard. "That should have killed him," the scientist said, voice full of disbelief. "The fall, the wind, the cold, any one of those things should have killed him." "But it didn't," said. "He just refused to die." Hour 63. A message arrived at the station. It was from a human ship still 2 days away. Captain Lee Dong commanding a rescue vessel. "This is the Earth rescue ship Phoenix," the message said. "We're coming for our pilot. We'll get as close as the Tempest allows. As soon as there's a safe window, we're going down." Aura replied immediately. "Captain Dong, this is Research Station 12. We've been monitoring pilot Ho. He's alive, but the Tempest is still too strong. It will be at least 30 more hours before it's safe to land." "Understood," Dong replied. "Can you tell him we're coming?" Aura sent a message to Ho. His reply came 10 minutes later. "Tell them not to risk it," Ho said. "I can wait. I've come this far. A few more hours won't kill me." "He says that," Al commented, "but his vital signs are critical. Blood pressure dangerously high, core temperature still too low, signs of organ stress." Hour 68. The Tempest was beginning to weaken, not much but measurably. The worst was passing. Ho's shelter had held. Against all probability, against all mathematics, it had survived. And so had he. A communication came from Captain Dong. "Station 12, I need to speak with someone who's been watching Ho. I need to understand what he's been through." Aura took the call. Dong's face appeared on screen, human, male, older than Ho, within his hair and tired eyes. "Tell me honestly," Dong said, "what are his chances?" Aura thought about all the data, all the impossible things she'd witnessed. "Captain, by every calculation we have, he should have died in the first 12 hours. But he's still alive at hour 68. So I have learned something these past days. What's that? Your species doesn't operate on probability, Aura said. You operate on determination. Ho isn't alive because the odds favored him. He's alive because he decided to be. Dong was quiet for a moment. That sounds about right, he finally said. Humans are stubborn that way. Very stubborn, Aura agreed. Please hurry, Captain. I want to see him survive this. I want the mathematics to be wrong. Hour 72. The observation room was packed. Scientists from 12 different species crowded around the displays, watching the feeds from VII. Word had spread across the communication networks. A human was surviving the impossible, and everyone wanted to witness it. Aura had given up trying to maintain order. She let them watch, let them argue and theorize and wonder. She was too tired to care about protocol anymore. 3 days without real sleep. 3 days of watching one stubborn human refuse to die. Ho's vital signs were displayed on the main screen. Every scientist in the room could read them. They weren't good. Heart rate elevated, Dr. Al read aloud. 110 beats per minute. Blood pressure 160/95. Core temperature 35.2 degrees. That's below safe levels for humans. Oxygen saturation 88%. He's dying, a scientist said. Those numbers don't lie. He's been dying for 72 hours, replied. Maybe he doesn't know he's supposed to be dead. The video feed showed Ho working inside his shelter. He was installing the new power cell he'd retrieved earlier, connecting it to his makeshift life support system. His movements were slow, careful. Every action clearly caused pain. His hands, someone whispered. How can he still use them? The camera showed close-up footage. Ho's fingers were dark purple, swollen to twice their normal size. Several were bent at unnatural angles, but he still manipulated tools, still twisted wires, still completed delicate work. Human pain tolerance is higher than we estimated, Al said, taking notes. Much higher. The power cell activated. Lights flickered on in the shelter. A heating element began to glow. Ho sat back, breathing hard, and gave the camera a tired smile. Got it working, he said. Should have heat for another day or two, that's good. I was getting cold. Getting cold. Aura almost laughed. He'd been in sub-zero temperatures for 3 days. Getting cold was the understatement of the century. Captain Dong's voice came over the communication system. Ho, this is Phoenix. We're 12 hours out. How are you holding up? I'm fantastic, Ho replied. His sarcasm was obvious even through the damaged audio. Living my best life down here. Beautiful weather, great views. 5 stars would crash again. Laughter echoed through the observation room. Even aliens who didn't fully understand human humor found it funny. The sheer audacity of joking in these conditions was impressive. Seriously though, Ho continued, I'm okay. Hurts pretty much everywhere, but I'm okay. The storm's weakening, right? Affirmative, Aura answered. Wind speed's dropping, you're through the worst of it. Good, that's good. A pause. Is Hay-One listening? Aura checked the communication logs. She's on the line from Earth. Really? Ho sounded surprised. Hay-One, you there? A new voice joined the channel. Female human speaking in Korean before switching to standard Galactic. I'm here, you idiot. What were you thinking, flying solo through that system? I was thinking the route would save time, Ho said. And it would have if the engines hadn't failed. You always push too hard, take too many risks. Her voice cracked. I thought you were dead. Not dead, just temporarily inconvenienced. Ho's voice softened. I'm sorry, Hay-One, you were right about the risks, about everything. We'll talk when you get back, Hay-One said. Just keep breathing, okay? Keep being stubborn. That's the only thing I'm good at, Ho said. Hour 75. The Galactic Council sent observers. They wanted to understand what they were seeing. 3 council representatives appeared on Aura's screen, their faces grave. Research Station 12, the lead representative said, "We've been monitoring your reports. Is this data accurate?" "Completely accurate," Aura confirmed. "We've triple-checked everything. A single human has survived 3 days in a Category 9 Tempest." "Not just survived," Aura corrected. "Thrived. He's been actively improving his situation, moving equipment, building better shelter. He's not just enduring, he's adapting." The representatives exchanged looks. "This changes our risk assessment of humanity," one said. "If they can survive conditions like these." "They're more dangerous than we thought," another finished. "Or more valuable," Aura said, "depending on your perspective." Hour 78. The video feed showed Ho eating. Ration bars, probably. He chewed slowly, carefully, his damaged jaw making the simple act of eating difficult. Between bites he talked to the camera, to them, to everyone watching. "You know what's funny?" he said. "I never thought I'd die in space. I always figured I'd retire, settle down somewhere quiet. Maybe buy a little place on Luna with HFY. We'd grow old together, complain about young pilots and their reckless flying." He took another bite, winced, continued. "But if I had to die, this wouldn't be the worst way. Fighting, struggling, not giving up. My grandfather was a soldier. He always said the worst death is a quiet one, going soft, fatting away without a fight." Ho looked directly at the camera. "So if I don't make it, and I'm not saying I won't, but if, at least I went out fighting, that means something." Aura felt strange. Sad, maybe. The human was preparing for death, accepting it as possible, while simultaneously refusing to surrender. How could someone be both realistic and hopeful at the same time? "That's very human," said beside her, as if reading her thoughts. "They acknowledge death but don't accept it. It's paradoxical." Hour 80. Ho went outside one last time. The storm was weakening but still deadly. Wind speeds had dropped to 400 kilometers per hour, still enough to kill, but survivable in short bursts with proper precautions. They watched through his helmet camera as he emerged from the shelter. The landscape of VII was visible for the first time in days. Rocks and ice stretched to the horizon, illuminated by brief breaks in the toxic clouds. It was a harsh, alien world, utterly inhospitable to life. And yet Ho stood there, looking around. "Just wanted to see it," he said. "The planet that tried to kill me, wanted to look it in the face before I leave." He turned slowly, the camera capturing a full panorama. Debris from his ship was scattered everywhere. Pieces of hull, cargo containers, a navigation array broken and twisted, the wreckage of what had been his home. "You tried," Ho said to the planet. "You really did, threw everything at me. Wind, cold, heat, pressure, you broke my ship, broke my body, but you didn't break me. I'm still standing." He raised one hand, middle finger extended. An ancient human gesture, defiant, rude, perfect. The observation room erupted in clicks and whistles and sounds of approval from a dozen species. Everyone understood that gesture, even those who'd never seen it before. It needed no translation. "That's human," Dr. Al said, actually laughing. "That's so perfectly human." Hour 84. Captain Dong's ship entered orbit. "Phoenix to Ho, we're here, starting descent preparations." "About time," Ho replied. "I was starting to think you forgot about me." "Never, we brought medical, and Haewon insisted on coming." "She's there on your ship." "Insisted," Dong repeated. "Wouldn't take no for an answer. She's in the medical bay waiting." A long silence from Ho. When he spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. "Then you better hurry, Captain. Don't want to keep her waiting." Hour 86. The Tempest entered its final phase. This was the most dangerous time. The storm was dying, collapsing in on itself, creating unpredictable wind patterns and pressure changes. Things were calmer overall, but pockets of extreme violence could appear without warning. "Captain Dong," Aura transmitted, "be cautious. The Tempest's death throes can be as deadly as its peak. Understood, Dong replied. We're monitoring carefully. We'll wait for a safe window. But Ho had other ideas. Captain, don't wait too long on my account. My life support is failing. Power cells almost dead. I've got maybe 12 hours left, and that's optimistic. Aura checked the readings. He was right. The numbers were dropping, oxygen levels, heat. Everything was failing at once. We're coming, Dong said firmly. Hang on, Ho, just a few more hours. I've hung on for 86, Ho said. What's a few more? Hour 90. The video feed flickered and died. We've lost visual, reported. Life signs, Aura asked, her chest tight. Still there, weak but there. They tried to re-establish communication. Nothing but static. They checked sensors. The readings were unclear, interference from the dying storm making everything fuzzy. Can you see him? Aura asked. No, said, too much interference, we're blind. For 3 hours they waited. No video, no audio, just the faint signal of a human life sign growing weaker by the minute. Hour 93, the life sign flatlined. No, Aura said, no, no, no. Everyone in the observation room fell silent. They stared at the screen, at the flat line where Ho's heartbeat used to be. He was so close, said quietly, so close to rescue. Dr. Al was checking readings. The sensor might be damaged, the life sign could be. Phoenix to station, Captain Dong's voice cut through. We're going in, now, we don't care about safe windows. One of our people is down there and we're getting him. Captain, wait, Aura started. But the Phoenix was already descending, dropping through the clouds toward VII's surface, toward the place where a stubborn human had fought for 4 days against impossible odds, toward the place where Ho's signal had gone silent. The Phoenix descended through the orange clouds like a silver knife cutting through smoke. Aura watched from the station, her 4 eyes locked on the display. The rescue ship was taking damage. She could see warning lights flashing on their systems, but Captain Dong didn't slow down. He pushed through the dying Tempest with single-minded determination. Atmospheric entry successful, Dong reported. His voice was strained. Heavy turbulence, systems holding, approaching Ho's last known position. Life sign still flat, said beside Aura. His voice was hollow. No signal. The observation room was silent. Dozens of scientists from multiple species stood watching, hoping for a miracle they knew wouldn't come. No one survived 94 hours in a Category 9 Tempest. It was impossible. They'd all watched Ho push his body beyond its limits. Eventually, biology won. It always won. Phoenix has landed, a technician announced. Emergency teams deploying. They watched through the Phoenix's external cameras. The landing site was chaos, twisted metal, broken rocks, ice formations created by the extreme temperatures. The remains of Ho's cargo ship were barely recognizable, just fragments scattered across the barren landscape. 4 humans in environmental suits emerged from the Phoenix. They moved quickly through the debris, heading for the shelter Ho had built. The makeshift structure was collapsed, crushed by the final hours of the storm. There, one of the rescue team said, I see the cargo containers. His shelter should be underneath. They started moving wreckage, lifting pieces of metal, digging through debris. Aura watched, hopping to see movement, some sign of life. But there was nothing. Found him, a female voice said. It was Hay-One. I found him. The camera shifted to show her kneeling beside a gap in the wreckage. She was pulling away a piece of hull, revealing the interior of the shelter. And there was Ho. He was lying on his side, curled into a ball, not moving. His environmental suit was torn in multiple places. Ice covered his helmet. Through the frosted visor they could see his face, blue, lifeless. No pulse, the medical officer said, scanning him. Body temperature 28 degrees, no respiration. Get him to the ship, Hay-One ordered. Now move. They lifted Ho carefully, rushing him back to the Phoenix. The medical team was waiting, equipment ready. They laid him on a stretcher, cutting away his damaged suit, attaching monitors. "He's been dead for at least 3 hours," the medical officer said, checking readings. "Maybe longer, I'm sorry." "No," Haywan said firmly. "Start revival procedures, warm him up, get his heart beating." "Haywan, he's been dead too long." "I said start procedures." Her voice cracked. "We didn't come this far to give up now. He didn't survive 4 days just to die before we got here. Do it." The medical team looked at each other, then nodded. They began working, heating blankets, adrenaline injections, chest compressions. Aura watched from the station, feeling helpless. Around her, the other scientists watched in silence. They'd all become invested in Ho's survival. Watching him die after coming so close felt wrong. 5 minutes passed, 10 minutes. The medical team worked frantically, but the monitors remained flat. "Come on," Haywan whispered. "Come on, Ho, don't you dare quit now, not after everything." 15 minutes, 20 minutes. "Haywan," the medical officer said gently. "It's been too long, we have to call it." "No, keep going." "His brain has been without oxygen." "Humans have survived longer," Haywan insisted. "The cold preserves, I've read the studies, keep going." 25 minutes. The rescue team was exhausted, but they didn't stop. They kept pumping his chest, kept warming him, kept trying. Hour 94, 30 minutes after they'd found him. A sound, a single beep from the heart monitor. Everyone froze. Another beep, slow, weak, but there. "We have a pulse," the medical officer said, disbelief in his voice. "Faint but present, he's alive." The observation room on the station erupted. Scientists from a dozen species were clicking, whistling, shouting in celebration. Aura felt her chest tighten with emotion she didn't fully understand. Relief, joy, wonder. "Respiration starting," the medical officer reported. "Shallow but present, core temperature rising, 29 degrees, 30, he's warming up." On the stretcher, Ho didn't move, but the monitors showed life. His heart beating, lungs filling with oxygen, blood flowing. "Get him into the medical pod," Captain Dong ordered. "Full life support. I want constant monitoring, and get us off this planet, now." The Phoenix lifted off, fighting through the last remnants of the storm. Within minutes they were clear, rising into orbit, leaving VII behind. 3 hours later, Ho opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was Haywan's face. She was sitting beside the medical pod, holding his hand, the one that wasn't too damaged to touch. "Hey," he said. His voice was barely a whisper. Haywan's eyes filled with tears. "Hey yourself, idiot." Did I make it?" "You made it, you survived." She wiped her eyes. 4 days. You survived 4 days on VII during a Category 9 Tempest. Do you have any idea how impossible that is?" Ho managed a weak smile. "Pretty impossible." "Completely impossible. The aliens have been watching, everyone's been watching, you're famous." "Great, always wanted to be famous." He coughed, winced. "How bad is the damage?" The medical officer stepped forward. "Severe frostbite on your hands and feet, 3 broken ribs, mild concussion, severe dehydration, radiation exposure, multiple cases of tissue damage from temperature extremes. You died for approximately 30 minutes before we revived you." "But I'll live." "You'll live. Full recovery expected in 6 to 8 months." Ho looked at Haywan. "Then it was worth it." Back on Research Station 12, Aura was compiling her report. The observation room was still crowded, but the atmosphere had changed. Instead of tense watching, there was excited discussion. Scientists comparing notes, arguing theories, trying to understand what they'd witnessed. Dr. Al approached her station. "I've completed the preliminary analysis," he said. "Human biology is more resilient than we estimated, but biology alone doesn't explain this. Ho should have died a dozen different ways." But he didn't, Aura said. Why? That's the question, isn't it? Al pulled up his data. I've isolated several factors. Pain tolerance 50% higher than estimated. Bone density 30% greater than assumed. Ability to function at low oxygen levels far exceeds models, but even accounting for all that, it's still impossible, Aura finished. Mathematically, yes. Al looked at her. So what's the variable we're missing? Aura thought about everything she'd seen. Ho crawling through the storm for a power cell, joking despite critical injuries, refusing to accept death even when it was inevitable. Will, she said finally, we measure survival through biology and environment. We calculate probabilities based on physical laws, but we never factor in will, the determination to survive regardless of probability. Will isn't measurable, Al protested. Maybe that's the point. Maybe humans have something we can't measure. Aura began typing her report. They don't calculate survival, they decide survival. A message came from the Galactic Council. They wanted Aura's full report immediately. The Council was reassessing humanity's place in the galactic community. If one human could do this, what could a billion humans do? Aura sent her report. She titled it, Human Survival Mechanics, a Study in Will over Physics. 2 weeks later, the Phoenix docked at a human orbital station. Ho was transferred to a proper hospital. His recovery was front-page news across human networks, but more importantly, it was news across the galaxy. Dozens of species watched the footage from VII. They saw a human refuse to die. They saw stubbornness overcome mathematics. They saw something that changed their understanding of humanity forever. The Council sent an official statement. Humanity represents a unique factor in galactic civilization. Their capacity for endurance exceeds calculated parameters. Further study recommended. The government upgraded humanity's threat assessment from minor concern to significant presence. The Empire, which had been considering aggressive expansion toward human space, quietly canceled their plans. 1 month after the rescue, Aura received permission to visit Ho. She took a transport to Earth, her first time visiting the human. The hospital was strange to her, too warm, too bright, full of soft furniture and gentle sounds, nothing like efficient medical facilities. Ho was in a recovery room, his hands wrapped in regeneration bandages. Haewon sat beside him, reading something on a data pad. They looked up when Aura entered. "You're Aura," Ho said, "from the research station." "I am," Aura approached carefully. "I wanted to meet you to see the impossible human." Ho laughed. "I'm not impossible, I'm just stubborn." "Your stubbornness, our mathematics." "Math isn't everything." Ho gestured for her to sit. "Sometimes you just have to want something badly enough. I wanted to see Haewon again. I wanted to finish the job. I wanted to live, so I did." "It's not that simple," Aura said. "Isn't it?" Haewon asked. Ho decided to survive. Everything else followed from that decision. Aura thought about that. About decisions versus calculations. About will versus probability. "We're studying the footage," she said. "What you did, how you survived. The Council wants to understand." "Good luck," Ho said. "I'm not sure I understand it myself. I just kept going, 1 hour at a time, one problem at a time, didn't let myself think about dying, only about living." "That's the human factor," Aura said. "You refuse to accept death. Even when it's certain, even when it's inevitable, you refuse." "Pretty much," Ho smiled. "We're annoying that way." 3 months later, Research Station 12 received a special delivery. A monument shipped at great expense from Earth. It was a piece of the cargo ship, the section where Ho had sheltered, twisted metal by heat and cold and violence. They installed it in the observation room, with a plaque written in multiple languages. "Here is preserved a piece of the ship that survived the unsurvivable. On VII, for 94 hours, a human named Ho endured a Category 9 Tempest. He survived conditions that killed machines. He lived when probability said he would die. He proved that mathematics, while powerful, cannot measure the human spirit. This is the place where calculation failed and determination won. Aura stood before the monument every day. She would touch the metal and remember watching the impossible happen, remember learning that some things couldn't be calculated. The aliens had given VII a new designation in their charts. The coordinates where Ho had landed were marked specially. They called it the place where mathematics failed. But humans had a different name for it. They called it Ho's Stand. And across the galaxy, when people spoke of human endurance, of human stubbornness, of human refusal to accept the impossible, they told the story of the man who survived the tempest that should have killed him. They told the story of the day the aliens learned that humans don't operate on probability. They operate on determination. And determination, it turned out, was more powerful than any storm.